Victorian era in England, an era of peace, an era of prosperity, when the English become the most wealthiest nation of the world. The age is named after the Queen. But what about the condition of women? What about the general male attitude towards the female? Today, through discussing Robert Browning's My Last Duchess, we are going to throw light on these aspects of the time. Browning's My Last Duchess is an example of dramatic monologues. Like Tennyson's Ulysses, this poem was also published in 1842 in the third series of Bells and Pomegranates, titled Dramatic Romances. And this poem at the time was titled Italy. The present title, My Last Duchess, was given to this poem in 1849. Now, talking about the socio-political and economic aspects of the time, I have discussed it elaborately in my last video on Tennyson's Ulysses. If you go through the video, you will get an understanding why Browning and Ulysses, two representative poets of the Victorian era, choose this particular medium or this type of poetry, dramatic monologue, to express their ideas. I'm no longer repeating that thing. I'm going directly into the poem. The poem is set in 16th century Ferrara, a town in Italy, and it has a historical connection. The Duke of this poem is loosely based on Alfonso II, the fifth Duke of Ferrara. He married Lucrezia when she was only 14 years old in 1558, and she died at the age of 17 in 1561. It is speculated that the Duke poisoned her in order to remarry. The whole poem is based on that incident. Here we find, as I have told you, the Duke is loosely based upon the character of Alfonso II. The Dutch is on Lucrezia, and the emissary who actually came in the Duke's house to negotiate in his next marriage is every time imagined as Nicholas Madruz of Innsbruck, and he came here on behalf of the Count of Tyrol. Let's now go through the poem. The poem begins with the epigraph Ferrara. As I have told you at the very beginning, that the poem is set on this Italian city of Ferrara. Okay, so the Ferrara, it refers to the Italian city. It's the setting of the poem. That's my last duchess, painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call that piece a wonder now. Farah Pandolf's hands worked busily a day, and there she stands. Now, the most important thing that you need to understand is that the very beginning of the poem, as I have told you, one of the essential features of dramatic monologue is the abrupt beginning. So it also begins abruptly from a middle of a conversation, okay, where we find that the Duke is actually, তার বাড়িতে যে লোকগুলো এসছে এমিজুরি, তাদেরকে নিয়ে সে তার বাড়িটাকে দেখাচ্ছে, পুরো বাড়িটাকে ঘুরিয়ে ঘুরিয়ে দেখাচ্ছে, এবং সে যে জায়গাগুলোতে দ্য আর্ট ইজ দেয়ার, আর্টগুলো আছে, তার ফ্রেস্কোসগুলো আছে, তার স্ট্যাচুসগুলো আছে, সেগুলোকে দাঁড় করিয়ে করে দেখাচ্ছে, সো টু ইমপ্রেস দ্য এমিজুরি অ্যাকচুয়ালি, ওকে, সো দ্যাট মোর ডাউরি ক্যান বি কালেক্টেড ফ্রম দেম, এবং তাদের কাছে আরও নিজেকে আরও বড় করে একটা দেখানোর প্রয়াস। So that's my last duchess. Now the word last is very important. It's not used that was my first duchess, okay, my last duchess. So এটা হতেও পারে যে আরও হয়তো আগে অনেকগুলো ডাচেস ছিল। That painting is the painting of my last duchess. painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. The figures of speech simile is used here. Okay, here a dead woman is actually compared to that painting. Okay, I call that piece a wonder now. Farah Pandolf's hands worked busily a day, and there she stands. Farah Pandolf is an name of an imaginary painter. Now Farah refers to a Fourier, something a man connected with the church. Now this is very unusual. Okay, that this should be the first name of a painter, but one thing that's very clear from this name, that the Duke ultimately hired, or Duke ultimately told a man connected with the church, and only gave that man a single day, okay, to make a portrait, to paint the lady, okay, because the man associated with the church would be the smallest temptation for the Duchess' smile. Okay, so this Farah Pandolf is also very significant here, though Pandolf is actually someone who is a very imaginative character. He is not like the other characters like Nicolas Madrouge, or like Alfonso, or Alfonso II, or this Duchess Lucrezia, or the next woman with whom the Duke is going to marry, Barbara, the niece of Count of Tyrol. No historical connections is there. This is a purely imaginative character, but that first name Farah is something which is very significant here. Wait it, please, you sit and look at her. I said Farah Pandolf by design, for never read strangers like you that picture's countenance, the depth and passion of its earnest glance. So the irony is here is the word read. He said that read is ultimately here is to interpret. Okay, while interpreting a particular picture of a woman, most of the people, they basically looks at the face, the countenance. Countenance refers to the face actually, but what the Duke actually wants the imagery to to look at is the eyes, the look, okay, the earnest glance, the depth and passion of that glance, of that portrait, of that picture. Okay, but it's very irony that ultimately the Duke himself failed to read the wife's mind, and that's why at the towards the middle of the poem we will find that he gave the command to stop the smile, to kill the lady. But to myself they turned, since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you but I. So these two lines, it basically indicates the Duke's sense of authoritarianism. He is saying that none puts by means opens actually, none opens the curtain but I have only the authority to look at my Duchess. Okay, no one is allowed to open that curtain. It shows his possessiveness, it shows his egotism, it shows his authoritarianism. And seemed as they would ask me if they durst. Again the phrase if they durst, it shows the Duke's sense of superiority. Okay, how such a glance come there? So not the first are you to turn and ask thus. So he is saying that he is praising that glance, that passionate deep look in that picture, and he is saying that you are not the first one who is going to ask me this question. Everyone who looks at this picture, though there is very few one who are allowed to do that, everyone asks me the same question: how it's possible to, what is the secret of that deep and passionate looks in the eyes of the dead Duchess. Okay. Sir, it was not her husband's presence only called that spot of joy into the Duchess' cheeks. So again there another quality of the Duke comes out, it is the jealousy of the possessive husbands. So he is saying that no, No, it's not that I am present over there, so that's why there is smile. Okay, so he never allowed Farah Panlove to portray the lady, to paint the lady alone. He was present there, and the smile, the secret of the smile and the secret of that deep passionate look is not because of the husband who is present in that session. No, uh, perhaps Farah Pandov chanced to say her mantle means the cloak, her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much, or paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half flush that dies along her throat. So this is a pure assumptions what the Duke is actually doing here. He is saying that it may be, the secret may be that the painter chanced to say that the cloak of my lady covers her wrist too much, so to uncover or to expose that wrist, or it may be that he is expressing his inability to express that half flush, that is the light blush or the reddish glow that is there in the throat of that lady. Such stuff, so such kind of remarks, okay, such stuff was courtesy, she thought, and cause enough for calling up that spot of joy. Okay, so such kind of remarks, she considered these remarks as courtesy. So it shows the the childlike innocence of the Duchess, which the Duke never liked. Okay, the Duke has the complaint that the Duchess is not at all aware of her dignified status. She had a heart. How shall I say? So the three dots are there. These dots are very important. They are basically suggesting that a pause. So the Duke is actually thinking what to say, how to describe her heart. The Duke is not at all able to describe the heart. Okay, she had a heart. How shall I say? Too soon made glad, too easily impressed. She liked whatever she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. So literary device hyperbole is used in the phrase that her looks went everywhere, an exaggeration. Okay, a figures of speech when an exaggerated statement is meant. So here, while describing the heart, or while describing the Duchess, the Duke exaggerated some of the aspects of that lady in order to justify the killing, the murder of the lady. Okay. Sir, it was all one. My favor at her breast, the dropping of the delight in the west, the bough of cherries some officious fool broke in the orchard for her, the white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech. In these lines, what the Duke actually wants to say is that the Dutch has no sense of discrimination. My favor at her breast, it refers to some costly ornament that the husband has gifted the wife. Okay, but it's not a genuine affection. The husband is giving the wife a very costly ornament, but not the heart. Okay, not the genuine affection. The dropping of the delight in the west, a very natural beauty. Here alliteration is used, dropping of the delight, the D sound is basically repeated in the line. The boughs of cherries some officious fool refer to a fool who is ever ready to pay unwanted services, broke in the orchard for her. The white mule she rode with around the terrace. White mule, why the mule is actually called white? Because it refers to the purity, the innocence of the the lady, of the Duchess. All and each would draw from her alike the approving speech. So same kind of appreciation, same words of appreciation he is going to use for all these kind of things. Okay, so no sense of discriminations. My gift, and the officious fool has given a very trivial, a very a bows with full of cherries. Same kind of appreciation, same words appreciations. Okay, or blush at least, or if not the same kind of appreciation, the same kind of blush, okay, same kind of gesture, same kind of expression. Okay, she thanked men. Good, there is a hyphen. Okay, so she thanked everyone. That's good, that I can actually accept. Okay, that's good. But thanked somehow, I know how, as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. So this is something which the Duke never liked. The Duke considers it beneath his dignity. So what the Duke ultimately thinks here is that he is being equated with everyone, with the officious fool also. Okay, so he thanked everyone, and how can it be that she is giving the same importance of status that I have, 900 years old name, a pride on his own status, and anybody's gift. Okay, who would stoop to blame this sort of trifling? Stoop means lower. Who is going to accept all these? Who is going to accept these kinds of humiliations? Okay. Even had you skill in speech, which I have not, to make your will quite clear to such an one, and say just this or that in you disgust me, here you miss or there exceed the mark. And if she let herself be loosened so, nor plainly set her wits to use forsooth, and made excuse. So these words within the quotation are actually what the Duke's trying to justify his own actions basically, and what he's saying is that that I'm not, if you say these kinds of thing, I'm not agree with you. Nor plainly means that does not agree with you, and her wits to use, forsooth, and made excuse. It means that he through this he justified conduct. Even then would be some stooping, and I choose never to stoop. I choose never to stoop. I choose never to lose my dignity, never to lose my status. Okay. Oh, sir, she smiled, no doubt, whenever I passed her. But who passed without much the same smile? So the Duchess had that beauty of mind, the beauty of soul to show her smile to everyone, to smile to everyone whoever passed her. A very good quality which was disliked by the Duke. Okay. This grew. So this grew referred to these gestures of courtesy on part of the Duchess, on the part of the lady. This grew. I gave command. Then all smiles stopped together. So this is an example of euphemism. Okay, something very harsh is told in a very sugar-coated manner. I gave commands, then all smiles stopped together. Okay, so I gave the order to kill the lady, so that these smiles, which actually she was showing to everyone, stop. Okay. So here we find the Duke was spiritually dead. He killed her only because she praised everyone only because she smiled to everyone. Okay. So because of those qualities, the lady had to die. And again, as I have told you, this shows how much the Duke is spiritually dead. There she stands, as if alive. Again, the use of we speak simile, as if alive. And then again we find that the Duke is coming back to reality. Will it please you rise? We will meet the company below. Then I repeat, the Count, your master's known munificence, is ample warrant that no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed. Munificence means generosity. This is the main point basically. I need more dowry. So the accusative attitude of the Duke is shown against the background of the Renaissance. Before that statement, what he was doing is that he was praising that painting, okay, that fresco in which the last Duchess was actually painted, and now he is talking about the dowry. Okay, so it also shows the social customs of the time. It also shows the status of women at the time, and also how the in the traditional marriage system, how the men were are given dowry. Though his fair daughter's self, as I avowed at a starting, is my object. So this shows Duke's hypocrisy, his cunning. Okay, so I avowed means I declared. So no, it's not dowry actually, it is her daughter's fair self, which actually is something which I want more rather than the dowry. Okay, so it ultimately shows his hypocrisy. Nay, we'll go together down, sir. Notice Neptune, though taming a seahorse, thought a reality which Claus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. So at the end of the poem, it is very significant. The Duke ultimately shows this imagery, a statue of Neptune. Neptune is the goddesses, or the sea goddesses actually, is taming a seahorse. Now this taming is very important. This taming is the art that the Duke admires and the Duke practices in his life. He loved taming wives, which Claus of Innsbruck, again the name of Claus is an imaginary name. Innsbruck is the Austrian city and it is famous for its bronze work. So this particular thing, this particular statue, like the previous one, is also a rare one. And through again and again by saying that these are very rare, what the Duke is expressing here is that that he is someone who is an admirer and worshipper of art, and he is collecting all these things because he is a genuine lover of art. These two artworks at the very beginning of the poem, the portrait of the dead Duchess and the bronze statue of Neptune taming a seahorse, these two are the most important aspects through which the character of the Duke is portrayed. Now this particular poem, apart from its historical connections, appeals us because of its study of Renaissance. As I have told you at the very beginning of the lecture, the poem had the title at the very first edition is Italy, referring to that Renaissance in Italy. Browning's main intention here is not to highlight that historical incident, but to express that ideas of Renaissance also. In Rape of the Lock, Pope's Rape of the Lock, published in 1712, okay, we also find that the primary intention of the poet is to reconcile the quarrels between the two families of the farmers and the Peters, but it was actually directed to ridicule the frivolities of the 18th century women. Now, if we compare this poem, this dramatic monologue, with that of Ulysses, Tennyson's Ulysses, we find that in Tennyson's Ulysses, what Ulysses expresses is his own philosophy of life, and that was Tennyson's considered philosophy of life. But here the Duke, the way he expressed his own thoughts, and it's also, this is something which is very quite common in both of these dramatic monologues, that the single speaker, through their detached speech, they penetrates into the depth of his own heart and expresses their own self, gives us a psychological picture of their self. Okay. But the Duke here is someone who is not Browning. Okay. Browning, through the depiction of this kinds of character, tried to show how the women are treated at that time. Okay. We may here argue that the possessive Duke may be that or may be connected with that of the father of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Robert Browning's wife, okay, who always tried to hold on his daughters. And we know that as Robert Browning and Elizabeth Barrett Browning, they they married after eloping to Germany. Okay, so the father and the daughter had no relationship. Okay, no connection between themselves. This is how the possessive father ultimately tried to got hold on his daughters. Okay, now the whole poem is written in a single stanza, 28 iambic pentameter couplets. Okay, and the use of enjambment is very important here, because through these enjambment is actually the sentences which run out sentences which never ends at the end of the line, and this is a device through which the Duke is never allowing others to speak in the middle of his speech. Thus, this poem is an attack on the way the Victorian society looks at its woman. At the very beginning of the poem, we find the portrait. The woman is considered as merely an object. The Duke objectifies the Duchess. And again, it's an attack on the bias, on the overbearing male attitudes and the rules of the Victorian society, where the woman is considered merely as a fragile creature who needs a husband. Now, if we compare this poem with Browning's other famous dramatic monologues like Porphyria's Lover, where you find the lover also kills the beloved. The two women in Porphyria's Lover and in My Last Duchess, they are the victims of men's possessiveness. But the two lovers are not the same. In Porphyria's Lover, the poem is basically the confession of a lover, whereas My Last Duchess, we find an egoistic Duke who murders lady, okay, because of his own pride, on his own dignity, because he was excessively jealous. Okay, the way the woman shows her favor to everyone. Now, one thing that's very clear is that this particular poem, this My Last Duchess, we find the lady dies. The lady had to die because of the qualities that she had, but she was never succumbed, or rather she never surrenders to the spiritually dead Duke's hands. The Duke can murder the lady, but the Duke was ultimately failed to drive away the humanity from the lady. And this aspect, it reminds me of one of the great lines in English literature from Ernest Hemingway's famous novel Pullman on the Sea, that a man can be destroyed but not defeated. In my next video, I am going to discuss some of the MCQ questions based on these poems. For that, you need to subscribe my channel, and if you feel interested, then you press the bell icon so that you can be notified when I upload that video. সবাই খুব ভালো থেকো, peace be unto you.